right, we are live here. That was a very weak clap.
That was a weak clap.
We're into it now. We're doing something a little different tonight, going live on Instagram, doing this feedback episode.
Yep.
Kind of trying to engage you guys that way too. So, let us know what you think about that for the people on Instagram. And for the people hearing this, after the fact, also let us know what you think and other ways we can connect with you and let you guys know what's up. So
100%.
This is obviously a feedback episode. So we had a special two-parter last time, Reverend Versteg and then Reverend Parnell, both missionaries and ministers in different contexts. So that was really cool to talk to them, to hear their experiences, even if it was just over Zoom in the case of Reverend Parnell. But that was, it was really cool. Anything that stood out to you? Maybe we'll start with Versteg there, Ty.
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit different that we only got to talk to them for 45 minutes, but it was kind of fun. It was like a little bit more of an interview than it was a conversation that we were typically used to. But it was a lot of fun. And it was really cool to hear, I guess, from both of them from their different contexts. Cause we're like, you grew up all over the world, but I grew up in Hamilton. So like we talk about Hamilton a lot and we talk about Ontario a lot, but it was cool to hear like PNG, which is the other side of the world. Right. And then, the Bible Belt, which is like, something you hear about and something you can kind of imagine. And,
we have it on like a smaller scale here, like in Southern Ontario, Niagara. But
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not like Niagara West Glenbrook. Oh no, that's not a writing anymore.
Corridor. Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, no, it was really cool to hear that. So things that stuck out to me, probably mostly the Psalm book, how they built the Psalm book. It was really cool. We're used to having a Psalm book and then like trying to refine it and do this kind of thing to it. But like it was always kind of a unified thing in our lives anyways. So it was cool to hear him talk about the way they unified a Psalm book between congregations who were just all singing their own thing. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that they came up with it through their seminary was interesting. And I didn't think it would come about that way.
Yeah. I don't think they had really much of a choice, but.
Well, yeah, that's like one of their main institutions there. So that's kind of how you would come out with a product like that, I guess, I would suppose. But I think, what did you say prior to that? They kind of just had an assortment of songs. It was kind of different from church to church. And they were looking to
they were pretty far away too, right? So like traveling through the jungle to a different village and all of a sudden you're singing different stuff. Yeah. And then I guess you wouldn't have visitors like you would here more than likely. But I mean, obviously there's some people moving around.
Yeah, probably not to the same extent.
I would assume. I mean, he could probably correct us, but
it's not every day you go for a cruise through the jungle.
No, exactly. Right? But then you come to a church and you don't know any of the psalms, so it's not like you could be part of the same federation and then they set up classes and synods or I don't know if they had a synod. They set up classes though of all the churches, so they were working together like that. But then if you went to a different church, you wouldn't even recognize it necessarily. So. So yeah, I'm curious. We didn't really ask them about liturgy, but I'm kind of curious about if their liturgy was all the same too. If that was like based on the same thing.
Yeah, it would have been similar. Well, he did say they used De Visser's principles. This is from like a speech he gave 10 years ago, according to Reverend Versteg. And a few of those were, what was it again? Like it had to fit into the liturgy, had to be one of, had to make sense for like, a confession of sin kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Rejoicing.
Right. And
after the sermon song. Yeah. What else was there? Redemptive history. Had to show redemptive history.
Yeah, it had to be faithful to scripture. So they couldn't just like you're singing a psalm, but the actual sung words had to be, faithful to the text, right? Which is something that I think we've not struggled with, but something that we've been aware of with our psalms. I know that before they did the revision that is currently being used in our Psalter hymnal, whatever, it's not called the Psalter hymnal.
The
Genevan, Anglo-Genevan Psalter. Yeah. I think that this revision actually went back closer to some of the text, which is some of the wording get more awkward, I think.
Perhaps,
I think it was like the ESV, NIV switch too was somewhere in there.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's probably a factor.
Yeah, that would be because I'm a little older.
Yeah, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. No, I remember when we used NIV. It's not super long ago.
And we had like the augmented psalm book, right? Like where the augment came out. And
we had that like thin one for a while.
Yeah. So I think that was part of that. And then we redid the Psalms. I think they went back to the text a little bit more. But yeah, so we'll talk about Parnell's Psalm book later, which is quite cool.
Yeah, but the fact that they made their changes, like it's kind of went from the seminary top down throughout, was interesting to me. Because if we were to make changes here, which like,
wouldn't
people
be
have proposed it, it goes up the chain through, from consistory to classis and regional and eventually general synod.
Yeah, we should really do an episode on that. how that whole governance
structure
works
and
that type of
hierarchy.
stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's not understood really well. So I don't understand it that well, even though I know in concept how it's supposed to be understood.
And
I
you're
don't
on-
understand why. So
And
we
you're
should-
on council now too.
we should do that. Well, I know like the reasons why these things exist, but I would love somebody to come in and tell us about it.
Yeah, no, it'd be good to get a good explanation of what it is, why it was set up, and why we have it like so, and how do you actually change stuff. if you
But
wanna make
obviously
change.
that was different though from like for Stag when he was talking about it. He talked about being in a council meeting or something in the church and then being silent as a missionary because he didn't want to be like, this is how you do it. He wanted them to figure it out.
Yep.
But then he was talking about the actual structure of how they do things, and it was like totally different than here. Like you can't expect that it's going to be the same, I guess.
Mhm.
But even there, like
For
they
sure.
had the
For sure.
ministers there weren't like, you're instructed for this long. You take, a year to do an internship in your last year of the seminary. Like it just was different.
Yeah.
Because they just, it's not the same culture. It's not the same setup.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
anyways, he said the other thing about the Psalms were to make them understandable for singing in your church. So it can't be like, very, archaic language that was straight out of the Bible.
That's
To make them understandable so that while you're singing them, that you actually, I guess, mentally responding.
check
in
in
worship,
and understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that was
Mhm.
neat. And they had a kind of a selection of, he said, psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs.
yeah,
which
that's
is,
cool.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Which
It's right in the Bible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so you can't really get mad at that. But that was kind of neat how they kind of had 3 different sections that way, and how they went about choosing those.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they also distinguish between the three too, because we would hear, I think,
Yeah, well, like what's
It
the
was-
difference between a spiritual song and a hymn?
right, but we would like say like you wouldn't sing praise and worship songs in church, right?
Yeah.
And we're very selective about the praise and worship. Like if we're going to bring something into our hymn book,
Yeah, right.
it's very calculated, right?
Yeah.
And so there too, they said, well, okay, this hymn doesn't really fit into our hymn section for some reason. He said
Mhm.
some of them might be able to, but like some of them were not really.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the same depth, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like they stayed in the spiritual song category, which is interesting. It
I
was
wonder-
like he said like they're like campfire songs, right? Which
Yeah.
as you can imagine.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
here.
Yeah, I wonder what people think, and maybe you guys can weigh in on this too, for Instagram or for anybody who's just listening to this after the fact too, is what do you think, even if you like the current setup in terms of what we're singing in our churches and you're fine with it, the mechanisms we have to change songs or even just make other sorts of changes too.
Yeah.
Like what do people think about that? Like, is it too long of a process to change a song? Or is there enough room
right.
for, because a lot of churches will do like the
You mean
pre-service
like
songs.
sending it to synod to
Well,
get?
I just mean like,
or,
say you had a song, like it's a balance between, not rushing and making, rash changes, but also like at a certain point, you just want to sing the song and everyone can agree it's a good song, but you're held back by seemingly red tape, which,
right.
so I'm just wondering what people think of that, those kind of two poles
Yeah.
there and where we fall in our churches.
I'd want to hear like why, like we've talked a bunch about psalm singing on this podcast, but we haven't really talked about our specific, like why the changes go through this process that they go through. I know that there's a committee set up in order to investigate this stuff, but like, what does that committee do? I don't really know. Right. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to get somebody on to talk about that too.
It just, how easy is it or how hard is it to get a song added or a song changed? Like it takes a lot of work. So
Yeah.
I'd just be curious if people think like the burden is too high to change a song, which is seemingly
Right.
less of a
Yeah. I think that
significant
would
thing.
be a view that would be pretty alive, but
I-
it's also, I think the unity that they demonstrated in P&G, which was really cool, was like, they really wanted a unified psalm book for some reason.
Personally, I think there's a lot of value in that.
They
That's-
never had it, I
unity.
guess. And they were like, well, it would be really cool if we
Yeah.
had it. So here, maybe it's something we take for granted because we've just had it for forever.
Yeah, we're looking for change and we're kind of trying to spice it up a bit, but
Yeah.
I think we should not lose sight of the fact that it is very valuable to be singing from the same song sheet, as it were.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we'll get into that with Purnell too, because it's pretty interesting.
yeah, maybe we can just jump into that too. Like, what did you think of what Pastor Bruce had to say?
Yeah. I mean, like, I listened to it a couple times and he was really well put. It was also over Zoom. So we weren't able to interact quite as well.
Yeah.
But the way he put things was like, yeah, you can tell he came from a different spot in the world than we do. Like it was like, he came from a different perspective. Yeah. Which is kind of cool. But what hit me right, like reflecting on it, was that like he was kind of like unapologetic for what would you say? Like it's not really it's not a progressive thing. Like they don't have like the evangelical, like he mentioned worship wars, but like, he didn't have the worship war mentality in his church.
He wasn't trying to,
and whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But then there was also really unapologetic about like, no, we do it like this. And like, there's a really good reason. And then he wasn't like, well, we've been thinking about, no, it was like, this is what we do.
This is kind
so
of
like reflecting on it, I was like, well, I guess like if you just think about it like that, then it's like, well, you can sing the Psalms, and then, we'll talk about this book too. It's really cool. Different tunes, different things, whatever. And then this is what we do, because this is, sung gospel. So
yeah,
it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that was neat. It was, he kind of talked about a few different groups, because I asked him, so how much of a challenge is it for people when they come to your church? Like, they find out you're a cappella,
Mm-hmm.
B, you sing only Psalms.
Yeah.
And he said, typically it comes down to three groups. One, you have Reformed believers. They're looking for a faithful Reformed church, and they discover you in their town or city or area.
Yeah.
And they're like, great, awesome. This is what I'm looking for. I'm on board. And that's usually a pretty seamless transition. And then secondly, you have the people who are, atheists or different religion or no religion, whatever. And they kind of come to church, and it's all kind of brand new for them.
Yeah.
And so he said, in his experience, they usually latch on really fine, and they just kind of accept it because this is what church is for them. And
right.
That's what
They don't have
that's all they've known.
Nothing to compare it to. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the third kind of group is the evangelicals, and like kind of like the people who would be broadly Christian.
Yeah, I would say churched.
Church people might be a way you could describe it. And they know the gospel, but like they're not, they haven't had real meat and potatoes, sort of like solid theology, and they're looking for a bit deeper preaching, more gospel centered, more scripture centered.
Yeah.
But they do like the songs maybe that they've had to sing in the past in church. So then he said that's usually a bit of a rub right there. They find that tough, which honestly kind of seems like it would be similar in our churches in terms of the types of people who who want to be singing more.
Yeah. It's funny because
songs.
I think like if you, I don't know, we can't really say we straddle the line between the two, but like we have the hymns that we sing, are more based on the New Testament, right? It's like
there's plenty of old ones too.
Martin Luther songs. It's like
talk
about art later.
Check out our new art. Yeah, we'll get into it at the end of the pod. But, pretty pumped.
But we sing psalms like that, hymns like that.
Yep.
Kind of like straddle the line. But then I guess like if you show up to a church where like you're used to singing Amazing Grace and all these other say traditional Christian hymns.
Yeah.
And you come to a church that's the Psalms, I can see it being like, well, you know what? There's value in this, and then going out of your way to search for the value in it is like, I think that to me, it would be like, oh, you know what? I should really think about what I'm singing, because there's a reason why they only have these and not all the other ones that are really, say easier to understand or like, more often understood as Christian psalms.
Yeah.
Right. So that to me, I would be like really thinking about the words every Sunday. So at least for a time, it would be useful for me, I think.
Yeah. So that kind of comes back to my question. Like, if we were to make changes to our songbook, is the standard too high right now, or is it high enough for a reason, because it's such a serious thing to change the songs?
Yeah, right.
I'm just putting that out as an open question.
Well, I mean, part of this whole experiment with the last podcast was like thinking about how we view the Psalms as opposed to our hymns.
Right.
And so like we got two kind of distinct, like, Versteg said, well, there was no Psalms being sung because they didn't have the Psalms. But then they brought the Psalms in as like, this is what we should be singing. Like, right, there was a value there assigned to those, and I think they said they brought 30 in. And then obviously Parnell, they said, well, like no hymns, just Psalms, which is like, a whole different thing.
Which like, it's not wrong. Like the Psalms are great.
Yeah, well, that's just it. So then they were like,
but why limit yourself? Maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to really ask him.
He did say like it does capture like the whole the Psalm. Your dad would agree with this, but it captures the whole experience of being a Christian, right? All the emotion and all the stages of your life, and
definitely
right. And then,
but even as Reverend Versteg pointed out, like, yes, the Psalms point to Christ, and yes, Christ is in the Psalms and very much throughout.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not explicitly mentioned, and there are there's a lot that hymns have to offer in terms of
that's
a full view with Old and New Testament in mind.
Newcomers don't hear Jesus's name being sung,
which proponents of the Psalms I don't think would disagree.
Yeah,
certainly not in our churches. I don't think.
Yeah, right.
And people understand we have a mix for a reason.
But it's like, how much do we value the Psalms as opposed to everything else?
Yeah,
it does in some way, kind of make your attitude one way or the other on this. Like,
Yeah, like if you place them a bit higher, which I mean, lyrically, it's very hard to argue with them because it's straight scripture.
Well, that's what Parnell said too. He was like, "It's hard to argue with the Psalms."
Yeah,
yeah, well, that's fair.
Fair enough. But then, like musically, obviously, there's a tremendous amount you can do with that, and people have done.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I wanted to show this book, but so Bruce Parnell, after graciously sent us 2 copies of this, it's the book of Psalms for worship. So this is I think this is this strictly the RPCNA church book? It was developed as a Psalms
I think so.
for worship book.
But it's got multiple tunes, and
the interesting thing I found in this book was they have multiple tunes for the Psalms, but they have the Psalms broken up, which we didn't get into in the podcast. He didn't explain that. Maybe because he just took it as a given, but it's broken down from so they have a 1A and 1B, but the 1A actually deals with the first part of the Psalm, and then 1B would deal with the second half of the Psalm or something. So they break the Psalm up into tunes that capture the mood of a certain portion of the actual Psalm. So I thought it was cool. So 118 has, or 119 obviously has there's 50 different tunes
portions,
to that, or different sections of that.
Yeah.
No, not quite 50. They didn't quite get through the alphabet, but I thought when we asked if they just use Genevan tunes or other tunes, I was picturing the discussion in our church is more okay, we're going to sing Psalm 7. Do you want to sing it with this tune, or do you want to sing with that tune, or do we have people come up with a different tune, whatever?
Right.
Whereas they were doing it okay, we have a psalm. Now let's capture the essence of what it would be to sing that psalm in, this section of the psalm would be somber. And then this section would be, a little bit more joyous, or this portion is responding in a different way than the other portion or whatever. So it was an admission of guilt and then salvation or right. So that I think they capture that well in here. So
that's interesting. It's not like
I obviously haven't sung it for years, but
fair enough.
Just at a glance, that looks like what they're trying to do. So it's really cool.
And it's not like we couldn't do that with our current book.
Oh, 100%.
It would just require.
This gave me a better appreciation for it. I was
some coordination. Some coordination between the pastor and the musicians. So
100%.
Yeah, that could be done.
That was really cool. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, and then especially some of the longer psalms. I know that they do. They encourage accompanists in our church too to really understand what they're accompanying. Is this a joyful psalm, and then how is it responding to the message, right? And then to play in a way that the congregation kind of gets that feel, which is I don't know how you do that, but I've seen it done.
Yep.
And explained, and it was wow, that's interesting. But I thought, this was a very concerted effort to sing the Psalms in a way that's wow, I think we could probably learn something from this book. So
yeah. So I don't know. My takeaway from this is there's a lot of value in the Psalms, and we can probably do more to get more out of them.
Yeah.
But also, there's lots of great hymns out there too. So if we want to add them,
well, we're not here to solve the problem.
Oh, we're not. But this is just my takeaway going forward. It's okay, Psalms are great. This is good. We can do better with the Psalms that we have. Maybe improve the tunes or sing them in different manners, that kind of thing. But then if we want to add more hymns and more contemporary songs, rather, how would we go about doing that?
Yeah, right.
Is the process too long, or is it too short? Maybe some would say, or is it the burden of proof too high? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're probably not going to solve anything. So
I'm running that voice power here clearly. So, but we should get to some news and some updates if people are interested.
People
in that.
are live. We don't have any answer or
do we have any questions or any comments?
Tim?
Anything?
See anything
crazy,
Tim? Everyone's just thumbs up on Instagram.
Yeah.
All right.
Drop a comment, drop an emoji, whatever you want.
Tim's saying no, we don't have any questions. So
people are listening. Actually,
that's good. We got
surprising to me. So that's cool.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
So anyways, you'll probably see if you're watching this, even after the fact on YouTube, we got some new art. We actually got some more behind us, but we can't see it.
So excited. Reform Perspective just gave us more money for the new budget year. So very.
This is this isn't how we're spending all of it.
You need some good art, man.
So hopefully we decorate this place a little bit nicer, and then Jason Bauman will be proud of us.
Yeah.
Beautifying our space.
Hopefully it's coming along step by step. But we got an iron sharpens iron thing here. Proverbs 27 verse 17. So that cool. Kind of speaks to a large portion of the show and why we're doing this, and
why we're doing it on podcasts and not in an article. I think that was one of our biggest things for starting this. Being able to ask questions as someone makes a point is the iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, debate, conversation, improves both sides.
Yeah.
We got Martin Luther, obviously Reformation hero of the faith, and just a bit of a funny
and John Calvin
thing there. John Calvin, and then actually you pull up those two. We got some cool Instagram. Can't see that yet, or to people who are listening. Yeah, so this was just cool. I don't know, more of my taste, but this is the original patent. I just touched my mic. The original patent for microphone in the States. So I thought that was kind of interesting and historical.
We got a fancy
C.S. Lewis.
Fancy artistic C.S. Lewis.
Yeah. So
a little abstracty kind of thing.
Yeah. Drop a heart if you guys like that. Appreciate it.
And then we got just a spiritual song.
A spiritual song, yeah. What would that be, a hymn or a spiritual song? It's the Older Rugged Cross.
That would be a hymn that didn't make it into
Song
the hymns, but is a spiritual song.
Yeah.
So isn't that Johnny Cash or somebody?
Oh, he sings a version of the Old Rugged Cross. Yeah, it's great too.
Good. So that's just some updates on the set.
Yeah, we got a sign in the works too. So Zebra Sign's working on that for us.
This place up a little bit.
So appreciate that.
Settle in.
Yeah. Content wise.
Yeah, we should talk about what we plan to do with these feedback episodes. So we've been
hemming and hawing.
Yeah, we've been humming and hawing about humming and hawing. Yeah.
Hemming and hawing.
Hemming.
HEMMING. Hemming and hawing. HAWING.
Hum? Like no.
Hem.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll look that up later.
I'm always
hemming.
Right. I'm definitely right.
Like the bottom of your pants?
Yes. Hemming and hawing.
What's a hawing?
Weigh in on Instagram. Let us know.
Heeing and hawing, maybe.
I think it's hemming.
All right. Yeah. So we've been talking about what to do with these feedback episodes, and so this first thing is we're going to try to go live with these. I think moving forward. I think we decided on that.
Yeah. Give it a go.
So I want to just
hopefully
say that
YouTube maybe, or unless you guys let us know if you prefer Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
If we do it on YouTube, it saves us on editing. So
yeah.
So that's the one thing. Hopefully we can get some questions in. We'll let you know when we're going live, and then we can get some questions in live maybe and kind of interact with them.
Yeah,
from what we've heard from people.
We'll be more organized on this. Yeah.
Of course. And then the other thing was our next episode in cultural issues.
Yeah, so we're also kind of curious with the feedback episodes, like what you guys think of them. We're trying to change up a little bit here, the frequency of them too. Like we do them once a month, usually 2 weeks after we drop an episode.
We don't want to leave you hanging for a month without content because.
But at the same time, like we could also do more interviews type stuff, like every 3 weeks, and then do this kind of longer form feedback. Once every like 2 or 3 months. Yeah. So you get less of time with us, but more time with the experts.
No one's going to object to less time with us. So they're already like, get done.
They're like, yes. Okay. So that's kind of the direction we're thinking, unless that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Our other thought was like to interact with some cultural issues or some current events or something together on here.
Yeah.
That people are engaged with, stuff like that. So
pal of ours, Mike Hutton, who just kind of got connected with recently.
Yeah. So he's not going to be our next episode. We're going to throw a bonus episode in.
Yeah. Because we're just going to do kind of a fun style, just 3 guys having a conversation. Mike says he's not an expert. I don't actually believe that. He's a pretty smart guy. Yeah. He has his own podcast, One Christian Thinks. And it's
have we plugged this podcast?
I think you have probably once or twice.
Yeah, everyone should go listen to it. One Christian Thinks. You don't always have to agree with him, but go listen to it.
It's basically, he does 20-30 minute length episodes?
Yeah, just monologues.
Audio essays, really. Yeah. It's really well put together.
Explaining cultural issues, Black Lives Matter. He's done COVID, masks, symbolism, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, and he tackles it in a really deep way, really well researched,
comprehensive.
Super comprehensive of the issues. Yep. And then maybe it's from one avenue of research, anyways. But definitely worth checking out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Worth engaging with too.
So, anyways, we're gonna have him on, because he's worth listening to. So,
very excited about that, and that's gonna be just kind of a free flowing, like I say, conversation. Yeah. 3 guys just talking about our current cultural context, different broader ideas. Postmodernism, Marxism, neo-Marxism.
Don't start listing things because there's really
critical theory, critical race theory.
Yeah.
Whatever. All these things that kind of coalesce and intersect, and intersectionality is another one too. I can go on all day about this stuff. There's so many things.
Yep.
But so that's to give you a general idea. That's what we'll be talking about. And if it goes well, we might start making that more of a regular thing, and we'll kind of tie it into our feedbacks. Mm-hmm. That's still up in the air. So again, send us your feedback. Let us know what you think of that idea.
Yeah. And then hopefully we're going to try to make that one long too. So if you
it could be 3 hours.
We might end up doing 3 hours. So, And if we're eating during it, well, then that's just how it is.
And we have no idea. Like, if you guys want to listen to that, awesome. I'm sure maybe a few will. We'll see if more people do. And we're kind of just going to experiment with that. But in the meantime, we'll keep our regular episodes going.
So we'll do like a 3 Christians Think podcast.
Yeah. 3 Christians Attempt to Think. Yes. Yeah. We need a catchy little name for it too. Something like Culture Corner or something. So again, if you guys got suggestions, hit us up. Drop a comment there. Would appreciate it.
I sound like that.
Yeah, I know. You can use your finger. Yeah. Kind of neat.
I feel like Ben Shapiro or something.
Oh, yeah. Drop a comment, gang. Anyways.
All right. Well, I think that's it for us.
We should talk about our upcoming is mental health is our next episode.
Yeah.
Too.
Right.
So guest is, I don't know if we can announce it yet. It's pretty much confirmed, but I wouldn't want to put him or her in a tough spot. So,
So, but
we'll let you know
tuned.
via social media very soon.
We had a lot of good engagement on some of our Instagram stories and things like that you threw out. And people were very excited to hear about mental health and stuff like that.
Seems like another one of these big topics too, just in the same vein of
for sure
addiction.
So if you have any questions about that too, send them our way because we know roughly what to ask, but if anything,
we got a good outline. But if you send us a good question, we'll see if we can sneak it in at this point. So
100%.
That's it. We've been talking long enough, so
good stuff.
We'll wrap this show up. Thank you guys for listening.
Yep.
Keep having real conversations. We'll catch you next time.
Good stuff.
Cheers. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this episode. If you want to contact us, just shoot us an email at reformedrealtalk@gmail.com. If you want to find us online, go to realtalkpodcast.ca. If you're looking for us on social media or any favorite podcast app, just search Reformed Real Talk and we should come up. Looking forward to your feedback as that's what helps us grow and improve as podcasters. This show was produced by myself, Lucas Holtfluer, Tyler Vanderwood, and Tim Moonwoodberg. The theme music was made by Calvin Hutton. The table and cabinet in the studio here were made by Ethan Vanderwood of Eureka Woods. And that's all the credits for now, folks. Thanks again for listening. We hope you were informed and inspired by this episode. Till next time, bye-bye.